2 weeks ago, Shadon Brown said that he does things in an uncommon way. Not that he's the only one. That he teaches the defensive backs to play the receiver rather than turning for the ball. And after the Albany game, Coach Neil Brown said that part of the problem with the defensive backs was not turning for the ball. And this seeming contradiction has a lot of people confused. I thought I would see if I can hold things together long enough to break it down and possibly make sense out of things. Before that, this is WVU Football Going Deep. Thanks for coming in. I am Forrest Poston. And that is for better or worse. If you like this video, please share, subscribe, tell your friends, make comments, click thumbs up, and click the notification bell, and go back and watch yesterday's videos, since pretty much nobody is doing that. It's the worst reaction I've had since I started. All right, now, to look back or not to look back. Now, the problem is that people are treating both of these statements as absolutes, even though they were not expressed as absolutes, and life doesn't contain very many absolutes. But some people like to think in terms of absolutes because they're a whole lot freaking easier than really thinking. Now, first, consider it from the receiver's perspective. Receiver is most often running at an angle so that looking for the ball, looking back, only means a slight turn of the head. And the receiver knows what route they're running and knows about when the ball should be coming. They know when and where to look. If you're in zone coverage, there's a good chance that the defensive back is facing towards the quarterback and the ball. Easier to make a break in those cases. But if you're in man, or if you started in zone and had to take somebody headed downfield, you probably have your back completely to the quarterback, which means you have to do a lot of turning to look back. And you don't know when to look back, and you don't really know where to look. And that means you slow down, you maybe stumble, you lose contact with the receiver, or you give the receiver an easier chance of knocking you off your line. And the receiver goes on to where they knew the ball was coming, and you've got a reception and a better chance at a lot of yards after catch or a touchdown. So looking back for the ball in those circumstances is not a good idea. You lose a lot in that way. But playing the receiver also means reading the receiver for the clues the ball is coming. Now, that may mean just being ready to knock it away, from their hands, or it may mean turning. Of course, the very best receivers might give you clues the ball is coming when it's not. So there's a risk. But playing the receiver doesn't just mean ignoring the ball. Now, the specific circumstances that Coach Brown was referring to, now he said, 2 instances, and I really don't include the first one. I would disagree with him on that one because I thought it was actually a really good defensive play. And I'm still not convinced. If it was pass interference, it had to have been well before the ball ever got there, because that hand on the back was just touching the receiver. There was no push. There was no change of the receiver's ability to move. So I don't agree with that penalty at all without going back to review the film. But the pass into the end zone, defensive back had his back to the ball, which is common in that situation, and the receiver tried to reach back towards the quarterback for the ball, which basically kind of means, they were having to go through the defender was going through them, and that was a penalty. If the defensive back had turned to look for the ball, essentially claiming that equal right to the ball, the contact would have been legal. And ideally, in that situation, you read the receiver and know when to turn. And then there's no penalty, and it's probably still an incomplete pass, a chance at an interception if you time it just right. But whether to turn and when to turn, when to play the receiver, when to play the ball, these are variables. They are not absolutes. And the defensive back made a mistake in that situation. They should have probably realized that they needed to make a turn at that time. Now, of course, if the ball had been thrown a little deeper, wouldn't have been any penalty, and it wouldn't have been a bad play. So reading a receiver can be a rather tricky thing. And that's probably why a lot of people prefer absolutes, because they are absolute, black and white, yes or no, either or. You don't have to think, you don't have to decide. Right is right, wrong is wrong, and boy, that's easy. Well, it's also boring, and if football was an absolute, we wouldn't play the game. If most things were absolutes, we really wouldn't bother doing them because there wouldn't be much point. Anyway, I don't know if that clarifies things for anybody. I don't know if anybody's watching. And my brain is fried. I am, pretty much ready to go off the deep end. But I do thank you for watching. And please tune in for the post-game show right after the Pitt game, assuming I can keep my act together long enough. So long.